you compelling stories, deep insights, and transform. Welcome to Beyond the Voices, a podcast where impactful conversations spark change, amplify unheard stories, and inspire actions. Here, we give voices to the change makers, the dreamers, the doers, and those who are shaping a better world. Whether it's innovation, advocacy, or personal journeys, every voice matters. Each week, we bring you compelling stories, deep insights, and transformative ideas from thought leaders, activists, and everyday heroes from around the globe. From untold stories of resilience or stories of groundbreaking perspectives, Beyond the Voices is your destination for meaningful conversations that leave a lasting impact. If you're ready to be inspired, challenged, and moved, this podcast is for you. Beyond the Voices, where impact meets inspiration. Welcome to our Beyond the Voices podcast. I am Charlene Clark, your host, one off. Today, we're doing it to the best way. Yeah, right. So I'm Charlene Clark, one of your hosts for this evening's discussion. And I have with me Shirley Brown.
Yes, I am Shirley Brown Danzy, motivational speaker, author, and voice coach, and I am the co-host for today.
Awesome. Now we have a big treat for you. Our guest speaker, well, not guest speaker, we don't like to use those terms. Our sister who will be speaking with us today on our show is none other than Teri Hofford. And Teri Hofford is a trailblazing body image educator, photographer, and best-selling author who empowers individuals to confront and transform their body images biases through innovative education and experiential learning. Her groundbreaking work, including the acclaimed books, The Geode Theory, Chipping Away at Body Image, and also 2,200 characters or less. And these books, they have shaped the way we understand self-perception. They have shaped the way we understand value and also how we understand authenticity. Now, as an international speaker, retreat leader, and workshop facilitator, she engages audience at the intersections of body image, mindset, and self-worth, inspiring lasting personal and cultural change. This talk today will be very, very inspirational. This talk today will be very real. This talk today will be so relatable that you will feel as though she's talking to you. Let us welcome to the mic, Teri Hofford. Teri, welcome and thank you for joining us for the Beyond the Voices podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love any opportunity to get to talk about body image, self-worth, and mindset. So this is right up my alley.
Awesome. Now, today's topic, Teri, we're talking about redefining beauty, reclaiming identity and power beyond society's labels. And we believe you're the best person to talk about this. Given your work that you have done and the work that you continue to do, we want to just hear your voice coupled with our voices so that other persons who might be faced with, body image biases, and they are living based on societal labels, they will understand that the only label that they place on themselves is when they are succeeding. So could you share a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to start your movement focused on body image and self-empowerment? Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But like most people, when you find your passion, you realize that it's been with you your whole life. It's kind of your life story. So for me, I was always a bigger kid growing up, and I was very thankful that I had a mother who was not consumed with diet culture. So when I would go home crying because I was being bullied by my peers, she had something very empowering to say to me when I was in grade 6. And she told me now that she would have liked to go and kick their little butts, but that wouldn't help in the long run. Instead, she sat me down and she said, Teri, you have two choices. You can either choose to change and be what they're asking you to be, but chances are good they'll probably pick on you, or find something else to bother you about. Or you can lean into and be yourself. And you may not have a lot of friends, but the friends you do have will be the ones that love you for who you are. And like, I remember it so vividly that it was like a core memory for me, but it really did shape how I would go forward for the most part in approaching my relationship to my body. Now, it wasn't always easy, though, I will say, because I became a 20-year-old, and in your 20s, you care a lot about how you look.
Yeah.
And I had moved to Busan, South Korea, and I just naturally started losing weight because the food was so different from home.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, this is what they told me I should want. Like, the society said, this is it. So let's keep this train going. And I unfortunately fell into orthorexia, which is where you undereat and overexercise.
Right. And
And
was it while you were in Korea? That happened while you were in Korea? Was that because because you're seeing that you're shedding a bit of the weight, you are now doing more exercise to keep it going? Could that be a part of the
yeah.
reason?
Yeah. So first of all, like, I stood out just being in Korea because I'm about I'm almost 6 feet tall. I'm very broad. I'm obviously
Right.
Caucasian with very curly, big hair. And I just look very different than the Korean people I was around. And one thing I learned very quickly is they were not afraid to tell me about my size. And I remember I had a student who, when I first walked in, my first day of teaching English, I walked in and the 6-year-old was like, you're a monster.
Oh, wow.
So, in your 20s or young 20s, you're like, oh God, it just started to reaffirm what society had been telling me about my body the whole time. And then fast forward, I came home about 2 to 3 years later. After that, I was still very much in the over exercising, under eating, but my dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And for those that don't know, essentially when people have that, they starve to death. Like, they literally can't eat, or they want to eat, but they can't digest it. And so that was such a big eye-opening moment for me, or really self-awareness, to be like, what am I doing? I'm purposefully starving myself to look a certain way, and all my dad wants to do is just eat something. This is a little screwed up. And it made me really take a look at, start the process of untangling a lot of that, a lot of what I've been taught. But of course, it doesn't happen overnight. Right. So I continue on my way. And it was when I got into photography that it really really took off, because I had a photo shoot done by somebody I was in a plus size body again at this point. And the person that did my photo shoot only gave me back headshots. All I got was chest up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm pretty sure my legs were there.
How did that make you feel? Or were you already prepared for this?
No, that was the thing. I was not prepared for just seeing that, because when I looked at their website with the smaller bodied people, they would show full body photos. But
Mm.
that was, again, another catalyst. Instead of being mad at that photographer, it actually allowed me to start looking at the photography industry as a whole. And
Right.
I realized if people were photographing plus size bodies or bodies like mine, they just weren't showing them. And I could be the person that changes that. And so I did a project to show, just invited people to come into my studio to
Mhm.
take, they could wear as much or as little as they wanted. And
Right.
the whole point was really just for them to celebrate their body as it is, and then to have a full image at the end that showcased all the different bodies and why do we keep trying to look the same.
Right.
And what came out of that was the responses of the participants that changed my entire life,
Mhm.
because I was getting messages from people before they even saw their photo that said, you don't even know how much my confidence has changed just by doing this, just by showing up and having a space to express how I feel about my body, but also the opportunity to celebrate it where it is. Like, they didn't have to wait to have their photo taken. They didn't have to lose 35 pounds before they could step in front of the camera. It gave them a new set of evidence to be
Mhm.
able to imagine, wait, what else have I been putting off because I thought my body was the thing that was stopping me. And
Right.
so that's when I went full force into boudoir and portrait photographer, which is where I learned, after photographing thousands of people, that body image is not about the body, because literally every person that has a body dislikes something about their body. So it can't be about the body, you know?
Right, right. But I want to go back a little bit. You said that your mom said to you, or your mom advised you to choose your friends,
Hmm.
but your choices will still have consequences.
Hmm.
Now you would have to determine which of the consequence you can live with, right?
Correct.
So it's either you choose the friends who, pick on you, and you know that they're, or you choose some people who will like you, but you won't have a lot of those persons.
Right.
I want to ask you if you understood what your mom was doing then. And I really want to ask you, what was the choice you made?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, I was very self-aware even as a child. I've always been highly empathetic. I journaled a lot, and this was in grade 6. So by now I was already talking to myself a lot, and very aware of what felt right in my body or my intuition. And at that point, I trusted it.
Okay.
So when my mom sat me down and said, these are your options, I was like, well, it seems a lot easier just to be myself. Like, that
Yeah.
seems like the easier course of action. And to be honest, I'm a lone wolf. I don't need a lot. I was not in it for popularity. I didn't really care to have a lot of friends. Well, my
Right.
sister was the opposite.
Right.
She loves being around people. She's an extrovert. Like, that fills her cup. For me, that would have drained me if I had chosen that route. So I think, like, I already knew I was okay to be an introvert, or like extrovert to introvert, where if I just have one friend, and I will say that is my best friend to this day, like, we
That would be
still connect.
okay.
Yeah. And like, but that whole concept of you have two choices has literally impacted every aspect of my life beyond just like how I am about my body. It's also
Mhm.
when I get stuck in my business, or when I'm faced
Mhm.
with like, when COVID happened, and it's like, yeah, you can be depressed and sad. That's an option. You can do that. Or you can choose this other thing over here and just see what would happen. And having that, like, programmed like so young, I think always gave me a bit of autonomy, right?
Mhm.
Like, whatever I chose, even if it was something that, was self-destructive, I
Yes,
had nobody to blame except for myself.
for
So
yourself.
it was empowering in that sense that it was my choice. Yeah.
Exactly. Shirley.
Yes, I'm hearing so many wonderful things coming from you. And I'm thinking that you talked about creating when you went into the photography, when in let me say, I'm not sure where your space was at, But when you opened it up so that other females, or you didn't just say females, but you said other people could come in and they could take pictures, and then you would take a picture of the entire body instead of just from the head up.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed to just, I know you talked a little bit about how that made other women feel. And I'm sitting here thinking about just what you did for so many women, and just people in general. But for some reason, who all came to your studio? Was it just women, men? Was it just women?
Well, so at the beginning, it very much like that was just my network was mostly women. And I will say, when I first started, I was focused primarily on photographing people of different sizes because that was my experience of not seeing different sizes showcased.
Right.
But once I started doing that work, I also started to realize there were bodies not like mine that were also not being photographed, right? Like especially I was from Manitoba, like Winnipeg, Manitoba, so there was a lack of representation for Black women. There was a lack of representation of folks with disabilities, trans people, like all across the board. There were all these stories and bodies that were not being photographed. And while I set out to kind of like change that just through my photography, once I started studying about the importance of representation and how seeing other bodies really changes how your own sense of belonging in this world, it became that much more important for me to open it up to anybody that didn't feel like they saw themselves represented.
Exactly, because now it extends beyond just the body. Yes, it started there for you because of your size and growing up always being, and then as you traverse the journey of life, right? You recognize that it extends beyond the body. It could be someone who is not able to walk. How is that person feeling in a space where you are taught how to walk, told how to walk, and if you cannot walk, you're not normal. It could be someone who have different kind of disabilities, we call them, and your approach, the approach that you use was able to fill the gaps, especially with persons who felt as though they did not belong.
Yeah, and I think that just like goes back to what I needed as a kid, right? Like I was seeking belonging as a child, which is why like everyone does. And I never found a space, so I created it, right? I created a way for people to say, if that person can do it, then I can
do it, right?
Yeah, and the more I learned about the neuroscience behind like representation and how it literally rewires our brains, when we see people that look like us, it gives us hope, and it literally is, if you can see it, you can believe it, and that just like propelled my mission so much faster and broadened it to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. I will say I did photograph cisgender men for a while. However, a lot of them overrode boundaries very quickly. So I had to make a decision for my safety that they would have to be vetted by another client if they were to come in, because a lot of them would take advantage that it was a female photographer and ask for things beyond my comfort zone, even though I would have said this is not allowed. They would still
do it. They would still try to push the boundary.
Yeah. So
you are really giving some valid, salient points here. And I want to just bring them out. I'm going back a little bit.
Yeah.
You said that you just shared that you created the space. You see, society tells you to wait on someone. So you're waiting on someone to say, hey, you will succeed. Society tells you to wait on someone to employ you. Society tells you to wait on someone to promote you. And so you find most persons waiting, not realizing that if you create the space for yourself, no longer will you be living based on what society prescribe for you. You know, you need to build a table and sit at the table and invite some persons to the table to say, hey, this is what I'm providing, and I want you to be a part of it, rather than waiting to be invited at the table. And I just wanted to bring that up because you said it, and I wanted our audience or listeners or viewers to hear it and understand it, because we have always been saying it. I don't want to talk much longer. Shirley has some questions for you as well.
Yes. Well, one of the things I would like to know, I know people oftentimes, you know, just society in general tries to force us in this particular, just this box, in this space. And what you've created is a space where people can be who they are and feel comfortable being who they are in that space. So I would like to know how often, I know this started something for you. It started something not only for you, but for so many people. So once you started this process, there was no way you could stop. I would think there's no way you could stop. So just tell me a little bit about that journey, and then how are you continuing that part of the process where you're allowing other people to come into that space? And then also, I know I'm giving you a lot. What kind of feedback are you getting from women who have been struggling for so many years, trying to fit into a box or into an image that has been so difficult for them to fit into? And then now you come along and you say, you know, I understand your struggle because I've gone through these things, and I've learned, and I've come to a point where I can accept who I am, and I feel comfortable and I feel good. Because when you do that, and just speaking about myself, because as you said, almost everybody, I don't want to say everybody because they say we never can say all, but the majority of people, there's something about our image that it's something that we don't like. And so it is very important, I think, for us to not allow those things to consume us or get so caught up into them where we become stagnant and we can't move past that point because we're thinking about other people's perception of us. So I know I give you a lot, but I really want to know how you're helping these women or whoever is in your space, just making them feel, you know, good about themselves and who they are, so that they can continue to grow and move on.
Yeah, that's yes. So I'll try to remember the question specifically. If I go off topic, just reel me in.
You're fine. You're fine.
But I think for me, so I want to acknowledge that when I first started on this, like, and this happens all the time because now I teach other people about body image and I see them go through the trajectory. So what happens is when you learn advocacy, you get real excited about it, you know, and you just want everybody to know how good it is outside the system. But that can come across as preaching, which not everyone is ready for, right? So at the beginning, I was very much like, why are you on a diet? Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, I was being as judgmental as people were to me about my body. Right. And I realized that wasn't getting me the outcome that I wanted, which was to inspire people to maybe have two choices. And so I read this, it was like a book, and there was just like a tiny part in there, and it wasn't even the main part of the book, but it basically said something like, she waited for me to ask questions like any good teacher does. And that made me realize, like, it is not for me to tell somebody they're doing something wrong. It is for me to be role modeling it so much that people will come to me and say, like you just did, and say, how do you do this? Like, how are you so comfortable with yourself? Right. So that was the first shift I had to make, is to get out of the ego and get into the, like, no, just exist and live your life the best, to like role model it. And then when people have questions, then you can answer. And just like create the space over here. And don't necessarily go leave comments on other people's social media stuff. Instead, just like on your own platforms, talk about what you're into, you know, because nobody wins in an internet debate. So I learned that relatively quickly. And then the other thing is, but in that same vein, is the more I am vulnerable and authentic to myself as much as I can be, whether that is being honest about when that I still do have negative body image days, it doesn't go away. Acknowledging the reality of what it means to live in a body. I think that enables other people to relax a little bit and feel like like they don't have to pretend that they
Right.
have it figured out, right? Like I think when the body positivity movement got co-opted, so previously in like the 70s, fat activism started body positivity to embrace more bodies,
Body,
which
yes.
was awesome. And then
Yes.
capitalism came along and was like, we can put a price tag on that. But then it watered it down and diluted it, but it also added another level of pressure, particularly for women, because now
Exactly.
you're going to have a negative thought about your body, but you're going to feel like shit that you've had a negative thought about your body. And sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I do it with passion. But then we have this negative thought about our bodies and we feel bad about that. So now we've got 2 times the shame. What? That's not helping. So I encourage people when they're in front of me, I just get curious with them. Now I just ask questions, and it's like planting a little seed of like, I know that I'm not responsible for their change. That I had to learn as well, that no matter how much I work with somebody, I am not responsible for their outcome. They are the ones that have to do the actions, and it doesn't mean anything about me. Because I used to be so upset when I'd work with somebody and I'd like spend all this time giving them all the body image goodness, and then I would look and they'd be like dieting or whatever. I'm like, what? Did it mean nothing to you? But then I was like, no, my whole job was just to like let them know that somebody in this world thinks that they're perfect the way that they are, and that their body is great the way that it is, and they don't have to keep waiting for their life to start, because like waiting to look a certain way before their life starts. That's all my job is, to show up and let them know that somebody is out here to do that. So I had to have a lot of conversation. If you can tell, I had a lot of conversations with myself to say like, what am I like? It's not about me. It has to be about them.
Right.
And my job is to just be the little seed planter, and they're responsible for harvest. And I have tools that they can use to harvest that seed, of course, but it's up to them to come back for that. That is not my responsibility at that point.
Awesome.
So does that answer some of those questions?
Yes, it did.
Okay, I just want to go to just a little bit about the photography aspect of it, because obviously that is where I did most of my work, is getting people comfortable to get naked in front of me really fast. And a big part of that was that I was doing the work of showing bodies, like I was showing other bodies. And before anybody ever came in and I brought out the camera, we had already acknowledged, like, I can trust her because she's already worked with somebody that looks like me, or I feel safe with her because that person did work with her and they look freaking good, or and that was a big part of it, was that I was not just telling people, I was showing them through the work that I was creating. And now I work with photographers to help them know, like, you can't just tell, you got to show it. And I kind of consult for them to give them the insight on why that is.
Awesome. And it's very important what you do, especially because when you watch the movies, when you watch the advertisement, listen, they'll be advertising toothpaste and they have this doing all these things in the advertisement. And the last thing that she did was to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. Right? So in everything, that they do, there is an image that is portrayed. And it is leaving a message to the viewers, especially, our young people who believe that this is how they should look. This is how they should sound. This is what they should do. And if it doesn't happen this way, it means that they're failing. Instead of understanding that you are created for a reason, for a purpose, and you have to step in your purpose, because wanting to be like someone else, sound like someone else, to look like someone else is not what you were destined for. So you're doing a great job. And listen, we can't go any further because I want to show our viewers a little bit from your TED Talk presentation, viewers.
Yes.
Hands up if you've said, I hate having my photo taken. Or, I'm just not photogenic. Or, I look bad in photos. All right, now standardly, my usual response would be that you just haven't had me as your photographer yet. But today I want to let you know that you are not alone. As a boudoir and portrait photographer for the past 10 years, I've had the immense privilege of photographing thousands of humans and thus thousands of bodies, and they've all said something similar before their photo shoots. And this got me thinking, if everybody thinks they look bad in photos, regardless of their size, shape, age, gender, then maybe it has nothing to do with photos at all. So I started to collect some data on the images that people struggle with the most, and I was able to come up with a handful of reasons why people think they look bad in photos, and I'm going to share 5 of those with you today. Now, have you ever heard your voice on a recording? Or on tape, as we used to say back in the day? Right. The same thing that makes you cringe when you hear your voice on a recording is the same thing that makes you cringe when you see yourself in a photograph. Essentially, your brain is being presented with a reality different to the reality it has come to know the most. Reason number 1.
Okay, we're stopping right there. And let me share something with you, Teri. When I listened to your presentation, let me just put in the right here. So our viewers, if you want to watch the entire video, viewers, if you want to watch, and I encourage you to, you can check the link below. Check the link below, it's right there, and go to YouTube and you'll have the entire video. Teri, I cringe when I hear my voice. I used to, let me say used to.
Mm-hmm.
I used to cringe. I would do my podcast and I would not listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would not listen to it. I would do some sort of recording and I would not listen to it because I cringe. And when you said it, I'm like, she's talking about me right there. But here is how I overcame it. True. Here is how I overcame it. Whenever I send a voice note, just by sending a voice note on the phone, I began listening to it, not to see if there was a need for me to delete and redo because there was something that I said that was incorrectly said or whatnot, but just to get myself listening to myself because I wanted to be able to listen to me, because if I'm doing podcasts, I'm expecting others to listen to me. I remember I was sharing with a viewer and I said to her, a listener, and I said to her, I don't like listening to myself. And her face was like, how is it that I'm saying in her, in her mind, I think that she's saying, how is it that you want me to listen to you when you don't like listening to yourself? And Teri, every voice note that I send a family member, a friend, to date, every voice note I send a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, a co-worker, after I hit send, I played it and I listened to it and I enjoy the sound. And that is how I became comfortable listening to myself. So you said something there, it sounds simple, and I like to bring out those salient points because sometimes, because it sounds so simple, people don't cue into it. And I'm like, wow. But then you have to be aware of, your faults. You have to be aware of how you react to what you believe are your faults, because really and truly they're not. And you have to be aware of self. So I would like to know from you your view of cultural norms, societal norms, and how they impact those persons who are just digesting everything that they are prescribing to us. How it is that you are just allowing all of this into self and losing self. What would you say to persons? I gave my example, but what would you say to persons? Hey, there isn't a Teri. Teri is not photographing you right now, but this is Teri saying to you, this is what you need to do to begin to understand that you are uniquely, or you were uniquely created. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think so. I kind of established this like method, which is, it sounds simple in theory, but it is like a practice that has to happen. So I call it the ACE method. So it stands for awareness, curiosity, and empowered action.
Okay.
So the awareness piece is the first part, and that is probably the hardest part for people to get to, even because it's the first. But because there's so much noise out there telling us what we should do, what we shouldn't do, how we should do it, and then it changes every 10 years, and like it's just constant. But in addition to that, a lot of us have been disconnected from our bodies because of body image and diet culture. We've learned from the time we're young to not trust the cues our body is sending us, right? Like whether it's, oh, eat everything on your plate, or you're not hungry, you can wait until this time, or you're not tired, you can't have a nap right now, or those are just butterflies you're feeling. No, that's a red flag. Like, like all these things have been we've been taught to not trust the things our body is constantly telling us.
That's
right. Like the first step of awareness is recognizing, like, when somebody says something and it makes you be like, oh, squidgy is the word that I use. Like your chest will maybe get tight, your jaw gets tight, and I say that's when something somebody else said is rubbing up against a belief that you have. And in that moment, instead of getting defensive, which some people do, and they just double down on their stance, I encourage people instead to get curious about it and say, ooh, that touched a nerve. I wonder what that's about.
Right.
And get curious about it. And then once you come up with your answer about where did that come from, who taught me that, what was the first time I heard that, and so on, then you have a choice. You can choose to keep thinking that thought that created that feeling, or you can choose a different thing. You can choose to create a new thought. And my favorite thing to tell people is every thought is created. Like every thought you have in your brain is created. Up until this point, though, chances are good that most of them were not created by you. They were created by somebody else, which is a totally normal brain thing to happen. However, now that you're hearing me say this, now you have a choice in the thoughts you think. So next time you hear yourself say to yourself, oh, I look bad in photos, or I hate the sound of my voice, or whatever, maybe try to change it to something else. Be like, I'm open to hearing my voice on a voice note. I'm excited to hear how I sound on this. I'm open to seeing how Teri sees me when she photographs me. It's not saying I love it, because if you don't believe it, your brain's not going to believe it, right?
Exactly. It starts with the
you can say, I'm open. I'm becoming somebody who I'm excited to, like, redirecting away from the original thought. So that's kind of the approach. But that first step of awareness, I was always a self-aware kid because I was journaling from the time I was young and very aware of what my body was communicating to my brain for the most part. But most people are not. And I didn't realize that until I was teaching a class. And we went through the very first thing I said, okay, just listen to your thoughts and try to catch them and then work through them. And we went through a whole day. And at the end, I was like, does anybody have any questions? And one of the attendees was like, yes, how do we hear our thoughts? What? I thought everybody had like a little radio station in their head going all the time. Turns out that's not the case. And that was my first like awareness that, hey, not everybody is like me. Hey, there are people that are in different stages.
Yes, we're different. And so the approach too has to be different. Go ahead, Shirley.
Yes. And sometimes, some clients or people, I would say, it's difficult for them to become self-aware or to, just to be able to tell themselves. And I heard you talk about that a little earlier, to be able to tell themselves that, to quiet those thoughts that are telling them they need to be a certain way. So for the difficult clients that you've had or people that you have worked with, what do you tell them, who feel like they don't know how to quiet the self-critic
negative thoughts
that's going on within the
Yeah, I think that that's great. Because so first of all, chances are good that if they're able to say, oh, my self-critic is saying this, they already are aware that they're having the thought. That's the first step, that you're aware that the thought exists at all and is creating an outcome that you don't want, right? Usually, like, I'm stuck, I can't move beyond this, whatever. That tells me you're aware that there is a thought up there that's getting you stuck. So, yay, good on ya. The second thing about that, though, is with that thought, and this is kind of something new that I've been working with people on, is that's, you might think that is the truth because that's all you've ever heard your whole life. The only thing true about that thought is that you have a belief about it. So if you can write down the thought that's negative, so my body's disgusting or whatever, I want you to change it. And so write that down. And then on the next line, you're going to say, I have a belief that my body is disgusting. Because that's the truth. The truth is you have a belief about it. And once you realize that it's not in me, it's a belief out here that I can work on. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
it does.
That, like, that little shape, that little, like, so do you want to practice either of you? So what is a thought that maybe is keeping you stuck right now? About anything. It doesn't have to be body image. It could literally be anything.
Lord. Shirley.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know. I don't have a thought that is keeping me stuck.
Oh, okay. Here's, let's say I was in the room with you right now and I was like, okay, I'm going to take your photograph. What immediately comes up for you about,
Nothing for me.
Yeah, I probably would say, wait until I get my hair done a different way.
Okay, perfect. So the thought is, I can't be photographed until my hair looks
perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so that's the thought. So, but that thought is stopping you from doing the thing that you want to do, right?
That I really want to do. That I really want to do.
I can assure you, the camera doesn't care what your hair looks like. Its whole job is to take a picture. It doesn't care what people look like. It's just doing its job. Right. But you've been taught probably, and it's probably not as strong now as it used to be.
Yeah.
But you've probably been taught that in order to be photographed, I have to look a certain way. Like I have to have my hair done. I have to have my makeup done, whatever. So right now, that is like part of you. Like the thought of me bringing out my camera without makeup on, without hair done, is kind of like, oh, that's squidgy.
Right.
So instead of saying, I can't do XYZ until, you'll say, I have a belief. So I want you now to say, I have a belief that I can't do that.
Right. So, I have a belief that I cannot take a photograph. I will not allow anyone to take my picture with my hair like this. That is my belief.
So does that feel different than if you just say, I can't have a picture taken with my hair like this?
It does, because now I feel like I have control over that.
Right. And that's
because
what we want.
Just because it's belief.
Right. Because then we're like, oh, it's not the hair that's the problem. It's the belief that's the problem. And we redirect it away from the thing that we've been taught is the problem, us, right? Because capitalism loves when we're the problem. And we put it on the thing that we've been taught. And this is why I tell people, and granted, there are some things our bodies do stop us from doing. I'm not saying that's not the case, but most things, it isn't our body stopping us. It is our thoughts and beliefs about our body that's stopping us from doing the thing. And that's what I want to help people to come around to. So that's how the ACE method kind of works, is that.
Awesome. And that ACE method works in everything that we do. You know, as you spoke, it's not that I did say there isn't anything that's keeping me stuck, but I believe I've been employing that ACE method because when I find that I'm petrified, I was petrified of flying. And I only talk about my fear when I've overcome them. I don't talk about them when they're still my fear.
Yeah.
And what I had to do, I had to talk to myself. I had to look at what is driving the belief. Yeah. So it wasn't the flying that I was petrified of, it's dying. because
Yeah.
I'm thinking that if the plane falls out of the sky, I'm gonna die,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't have to deal with the fear of flying. I had to deal with the fear of dying.
Right.
You know,
Yes,
and
yes.
I have been doing, yes, I have been doing that all my life. And
Yeah.
as you asked the question, I went way back and I'm like, what is it that is keeping me? But it's because of the method that I employ. Because when you perform, or when you try to grow or try to develop or try to do things, whatever it is, and there is some sort of fear that is holding you back, it's because of your belief system, and your belief system is influenced by the things you allow it to be influenced by. It could be
Correct.
your mom in
Yes.
your ear, your dad in your ear, some sort of
Mhm.
music, something that is influencing
Mhm.
that belief system. So you
Yes.
ooh, ooh,
Society, and it is
listeners,
powerful. It can be so powerful that it takes people so many years sometimes to be able to deal with that and to be
Well,
able to say,
there's a lot of money to be made when people are afraid. So
yes,
yes,
that's one of the questions, like in the ACE method for curiosity. There's like, you can ask so many questions, but one of my favorite ones is, who's profiting off of me having this
me,
thought? So like,
exactly.
right, like if we
Exactly.
go back to your hair looking a certain way, well, the hair companies are profiting off of that, like the hair care products, you know,
yes.
like the amount of time that we spend on stuff like that, like that's being
Mhm,
profit.
mhm.
And it's like, but at the end, we are not profiting from it. So what
No.
the hell am I
Exactly.
doing here?
Yeah, we're
Yes.
losing. We're
Right.
losing so someone
And
else
we're
can
stunning
profit.
our growth. We're stunning our growth because we're
Exactly.
not doing
Yes.
things that, yes.
That we're
So,
meant to be doing. Yeah. So
Look
that's
at
what that
that.
resistance is like. That's what I call squidgy, is when there's a little resistance, and it happens. It will happen for the rest of your life, because as we grow, we just, new levels, new devils, they say. So
Yeah, but if
exactly.
you are aware, you can interject that. Listen, let's take a little break. Let's take a little break. Listen, Shirley, we need to tell our viewers about our conference. Just let us give them a little video, just a small break. And when we return, we are just wrapping up. We're not going anywhere, just sharing a little video with you. All right. I am enjoying this discussion, and we could go on and on and on and
and
on.
on and
Listen,
on.
viewers, listeners, if you want us to come back with Teri, tell us, and we will come back with her. Tell us, because there is so much that she can share, and we have been sharing with you. But you know, when we have persons who are singing the same song and we're dancing to the same tune, it makes it much easier for us to share that, hey, listen, you, if we can do it, you can do it too. There's no difference. Well, there is a difference. The difference between you and us is a mindset. So let us begin to train the mind. Now, Teri, what does reclaiming power and identity look like in everyday life? We're winding up right now.
Oh, that's a really good question. What does it look like for me, for every? So I think that is like challenging yourself to be self-aware. Like, there are so many things that, like, every day is an opportunity to make a different choice than what you've chosen before. And and I think sometimes we're sold this idea that the steps we have to be massive in order for them to make a difference. But I have found for myself that consistency trumps the size of the step that you're taking. If you were to take a tiny step every day, it's the tortoise and the hare story, right? But like, if you were to show up every day and just like choose yourself, like whatever you, and the
Consistency.
question you can ask yourself is like starting every day with the question, okay, what is the outcome that I want from today? Or what is the outcome that I want for myself? I like to write, I always think ahead. I'm very like future thinking. So I write, it's called a Dear Future Me letter. There's a website you can go to and you write a letter to yourself today and it will be delivered to you a year from now. And that's one of my favorite things to do because it allows me to think about where I'll be a year from now.
Right.
And what will I have accomplished, right? And so it like starts my wheels turning. But as soon as we do that, our brain's like, all right, let's get to work and start moving towards that goal and look for evidence that supports this thing. This is how manifestation works, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that helps me is like grounding into thinking about what future Teri needs and making present day decisions that will benefit her. And that's the thing that moves me forward, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of
Whereas
sense.
before I was very much just a fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. And like, I don't know, just go where the vibes are, you know, which granted, it did get me success, but it also came with a lot of choices that were over my boundaries or were like not in alignment with who I truly am. They were like to uphold my good girl identity, like a lot of things like that. So, but I had to do that in order to get to where I am. So, you know, but yeah, so I think like consistency is one of the biggest things. So whatever it is that you're like, I have this little idea of a dream for myself, whether that is embracing your body more, showing up in a photograph, speaking on a stage, whatever it is, it's like, what is one tiny little thing you can do every day to get
that
you
will
to
make the difference tomorrow? Yes.
Yeah, and I'd say
Consistently doing it.
10 minutes. Yeah, it doesn't like just start there because once you start, you can't stop. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
if you're passionate, if you are passionate, because if you start, you can start and stop, but you have to be passionate about what you're doing. Because if you lack the passion, you'll start and stop.
Yeah, I always say the passion has to override the inconveniences that come with growth, because there will be a lot of inconveniences along the way. But that also is where that consistency comes in, because once you build it into a habit, then even
it's
when
gonna be hard to break.
When it doesn't feel good to do it, you're like, yeah, but I still, you know, it's what I do. So it becomes easier to do the thing, even if it's not fun anymore. Yeah.
So true. Well, Teri, it has been a pleasure just listening to you. You've offered us so much. Normally, I'll say you drop so many gems. I'll say that.
Yes.
Yes, because what you have and the platform that you've created is helping so many people, and I'm sure people around the world. Because when we listen to people with the stories that you have, it just gives so many people the opportunity to pause for a moment and just say, just like you said earlier, if I can do this, then if she can do this, then I can do this. And I think one of the biggest things, and I took a course that was called Thinking into Results. And it teaches you to think from the inside out and not let things that go on the outside of you control who you are and how you think. And that I think that is very key when we're trying to not fit into a box, but become self-aware, like you said, so that when things come at us to try to make us feel like, or we have the belief that we need to fit in a box, then we can just listen to those inner thoughts and shift our mindset and change those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, and then keep moving in the direction of our dreams and do not allow those things to stop us, to stop our growth. Because as you said earlier, when we stop, when we pause because we're trying to fit into somebody else's thought of who they feel like we should be, then we're stunning our own growth. And we want to become self-sufficient. We want to live out our own dreams. So don't allow what other people think of you determine how you act in the world, because you need to keep moving in the direction of your dreams. Don't pause. Just keep moving. You may have to shift sometimes, but keep moving in the direction of your dreams.
Yeah, I also just want to leave your listeners with this like thought that somebody had said to me a long time ago when I still had a very big ego and was like a young teen. But I was working, and I didn't take criticism real well back then. You know,
Yeah.
let's be honest, I still get squidgy about it, but
It's part of growth.
but I know how to work through it now. Whereas before,
Right.
I just feel like she don't know what she's talking about. But what the person had said to me was, she said, if something I'm saying stings, it's because you think it's the truth. And so what that taught me was when people leave negative comments on my stuff or comments about my body, it will only sting if I believe those things to be true about myself. So anytime if you're afraid of somebody saying something about you, yes, there might be people that say that, but you're afraid of it because you think that about you. Right. And that's like, I think if people can start to just like be aware of what is the thing that I'm most afraid of people saying about me, you think that about yourself, and that's what you need to work on. Because as soon as you make peace with that with yourself, then next time somebody says it has no effect on you, because you've already, you're like, I know that's not true for me. Yeah. Like, I know that's not true because like I've worked through this already. So I think that's like a really helpful place for people to start. So
Thank you, Teri. Thank you. And I hope our listeners and our viewers really understood what you've just shared with them. Teri, how can our listeners connect with you, support your movement, or even get involved in your work? Tell us a little bit. For those persons who are interested to know about your work, your books, tell us a little bit where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Perfect. So the main spot would probably be my website, which is just my name, TeriHofford.com, but it's with one R, Teri, because you guys didn't, so thank you for that. But lots of people spell it with two R's, and then you won't get to my website. So TeriHofford.com. Everything's on there, like my books, my courses. I do have a course that is in alignment with my TEDx talk, so we go deeper into each of those things. So if somebody is struggling with their self-image in like showing up on stage, on camera, whatever, it's a really great course for that. And it's in person with me. Well, not in person, but like on Zoom with me. So we go through it together.
Virtual.
Instead of like self-paced, I was like, I'm not doing this self-paced. You need.
Is there a cost? There is a cost for that?
Yes, there is a cost for that one. I think I priced it at $222 Canadian though, so it's cheaper for you guys in the US. And then like I said, books are on there. Also, if you're on social media on Instagram, I'm taking a month off right now, but there is a lot of good back content, so you can check that out. Again, just my name. I have a Patreon, which is like a community, which again is paid for $27 a month, but it's where I do like bi-weekly every 2 weeks, I release a course. Podcast episodes go in there. There's like chats and communities. You can ask me anything you want. Basically, it's for the people that really want to immerse themselves in the ACE method and body image work with myself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Teri. And we enjoyed talking with you today. And we hope our listeners or viewers would have learned a lot to understand that, yes, you are talking about body image, but it extends beyond that. The principles will still work for anything that you are doing, that you will have to, let go of certain mental block, I want to call it mental block, right? In order to make that step, just one step forward, right? And we really appreciate you. Thank you for saying yes. Shirley, you have anything else to say to?
No, I just want to say thank you, Teri. It has been a pleasure having you on today. And again, we certainly appreciate you sharing your knowledge, your area of expertise with us today and with so many people around the world. I think you'll get a lot of people who are going to reach out because you are filling a gap that really needed to be filled. So thank you.
Exactly. Thanks for having me. Go ahead. So remember, TeriHofford.com. Everything is there. You've been listening to Beyond the Voices, where impact meets inspiration. Are you inspired? Join us for another episode when we continue to inspire, motivate, and encourage you. Thank you, Teri.
Okay. Love you.
photos is that you've been looking at a reflection of yourself your whole life. Whether that's looking in the mirror as you brush your teeth in the morning, checking yourself out in the shop window when you walk by, or plucking that rogue chin hair in the rearview mirror